As was stated, we're starting this off with a focus on the domain about designing resilient architectures. This umbrella topic will have 4 subdomains that I'll discuss. To begin, I'll discuss designing a multi-tier architecture solution. This will involve looking at solutions based on access patterns, evaluating scaling strategies for components, determining database needs, and selecting appropriate compute and storage services. Next, I'll talk to you about highly available and fault-tolerant architectures. Through evaluation of fault-tolerant resource needs, failure mitigation, disaster recovery strategies, and several other topics, I'll help to direct your studies for this. Third, focusing on decoupling mechanisms, I'll talk to you about services to assist in achieving loose coupling of components, as well as the use of serverless technologies. The last topic for this domain will be about choosing appropriate resilient storage. This will involve defining a data durability strategy, identifying the impact of service consistency on operations, analyzing how access requirements direct the selection of data services, and the use of storage services with hybrid and non-cloud native applications. Now that you know what's ahead, it's time I get started on the focus of this subdomain. When looking at multi-tier architecture solutions, there will be several aspects important to consider. Additionally, the items you encounter on the exam will rarely be so focused as to only incorporate a single aspect, but will usually require you to understand and implement multiple. And that includes both the topics covered in this segment, as well as the ideas from throughout the exam guide. Let's start with determining a solution design based on access patterns. To make it as direct as I can, this is referring to designing with regards to who and what needs to access the particular architecture and how they will access. You could think about where the connections and requests are coming from. Architecture builds can change drastically between access provided via the public internet, like with a public-facing web application, and requests made solely from on-premises users accessed through a virtual private network, or VPN. Another thought to consider is what the access pattern looks like from hour to hour and day to day. Do you have steady connections or do you have peaks to consider? Do your requests vary in size or are they fairly consistent? Do you need to be ready for large volumes of unexpected traffic? Access patterns play a large part in determining how to design and update your architectures. And speaking of changes to traffic patterns, that brings up scaling. More specifically, how you should be considering and determining scaling strategies for your design's components. When studying this area, make sure you are considering how scaling can occur at each level of your multi-tier architecture, as well as the possible use of both horizontal and vertical scaling methods. Consider ways to implement scaling, how various services handle elasticity, and methods to automate scaling needs. Also include service limitations in those considerations. Limits, like the number of instances or VPCs that you're able to concurrently deploy, can quickly stop an environment's ability to continue scaling. To close out this section, you should be focusing on your requirements, how your selection of database storage and compute services and implementations will change based on changes to your requirements. When will you look to building your own database on instances versus utilizing a managed service like Amazon Relational Database Service or Amazon DynamoDB? How do the various instance families affect what servers you'll run and how you'll deploy them? When would you choose instance-based storage over Amazon Elastic Block Store? How about choosing between using Amazon Simple Storage Service and Amazon S3 Glacier? As I stated earlier, and as you're likely starting to see, the questions and topics I've brought up don't stand alone. Determining scaling strategies depends on your access patterns. Selecting the appropriate service for your architecture will rely on understanding the scaling needs and possibilities as well as these access patterns. None of these topics here or through the rest of the course will stand alone. As you go through, make sure you are considering what you've already studied in order to understand how it all fits together. All right, that's it for now. I'll talk to you soon.